Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape, vinyl tape,
carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. Listen, I have done a lot of taping and episodes over my career, my short-lived career thus far. But I'm telling you, this is probably one of the greatest episodes I think I'm going to have. This guy is the quintessential funny man, athletic community brother, my dear friend, Todd Evans. Welcome to the platform.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, beloved? How are you? Good
to be talking to you, man. Good to be here.
Yes, sir.
I love you, and I hope I got that same kind of feeling, brother.
We just gonna put our cards on the table, and we just gonna rock and roll and just have a great time. So
yes, sir.
I recently had an opportunity to interview your brother, and the first thing that we talked about was the very first time we stayed up all night at your house because you were the only person that we knew that had cable.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And,
I sure do
trying to tell your parents that I'm down at Todd's house watching cable all night, they weren't buying that. We're like, it's true, it's cable. They're like, what is cable? But listen, man.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Your family, your household was the hotbed of activity. Why was that, man? Why was that, right?
I think a lot of it had to do with the activism and civic-minded parents that I had.
Gotcha.
My dad was a college professor and very involved in the theatrical artistic scene.
Yes.
And a bit of a community activist himself. My mother was a teacher. She taught girls at the Y and at the girls' home.
Yes.
And she was very Afrocentric at the same time. So that had a lot to do with it, I believe.
Now, so when you and I met, I think we were 8th grade, 9th grade?
Yep.
Okay. And we would often hang out at your house, but we never knew the activism side of your household or your parents. And we never knew, we're just realizing now that your family, was theatrical, musical. Man, your family was just a smart-ass family. We didn't even know that, bro.
Yeah, it was fun growing up, but it was also weird.
Okay.
I can remember one time, I remember we were in a choir, a church choir, me, you, and a couple of our friends. I believe that's where we first met.
Wait.
And then we started riding bikes and stuff together.
Wait, hold up. You're telling me that you and I met at Catwalder Asbury?
Yep, Pat Sims.
Oh, yes, Pat Sims. Thank you, yes.
Yep, was the director of the choir, and she was my mother's pianist.
Yes.
And her husband at the time was also a big community activist, who was real tight with my dad.
Wow.
And a typical day growing up in my household, I'm coming from, we used to have rehearsal. Either sometimes we'd be in the sanctuary of that church or we'd be in that building next door.
Yes.
You remember that?
I remember that. Yes.
And I was coming home from that and I saw all these people in front of my house.
Yes.
And I'm like, what's going on? And I get in the house, my mother's running around frantic. And she's like, James Earl Jones is on the back porch with your dad. And I'm like,
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like, Darth, at that time, James Earl Jones, anybody growing up in our time, knew about Star Wars. He was,
yes.
I mean, he was a renowned actor before that, but that's Darth Vader to our generation.
Yes.
So I'm like, what do you mean Darth Vader's on the porch? And I go back there and they're on the porch talking. But because of my dad's playwriting things and he had an ability to get in touch with a lot of people from, that theatrical scene and so on.
Yes.
So he had James at the college for something and brought him over for dinner.
Wow.
But he would call my mom a couple hours before and say, Gwendolyn Brooks is coming over, or I got Julian Bond with me.
Wow.
And somehow she did it together. And, I would meet people like that not knowing. My father would tell me who they were. I've read about them, but not really knowing until years later.
Yes.
Who I'd actually met.
Now let me stop you there for a second, Todd. Based on all the folks that you've met with your mother and father, having them at your house, who do you think was the most influential, or who do you think you patterned your life or your career after?
I would say the most influential, and I'd hope to pattern my life, because I'm a spoken word artist and a poet.
Yes.
Would have been Nikki Giovanni.
Okay.
And I was a kid, and my father said, I'm going to have somebody's coming by tonight, and I'm going to wake you up. You're going to meet her. Yes. And I was so young, I still had those slippers with the feet in them.
Yeah.
The pajamas, I can still remember. And he woke me up, and then when I got to the bottom of the stairs, Julian Baum was at the bottom of the stairs with her.
Yes.
And she had a children's book of poetry that she had written. She signed it to me, and I was writing poetry at that time, too.
Yes. Now, how old were you, Todd?
And I'm 37 now.
Wait, you were 37 at that time?
Oh, no.
I was going to say.
I'm 57, and I guess I
know that.
I guess I was about 9.
Okay, because I'm saying if you 37 to 57 and you sleeping with those them bottoms on your feet, that's some fetish kind of stuff.
That would be a sight. That would be a sight.
But they were comfortable though. I got you. Wow. Now it's so funny. Wish we would have had cell phones at that time, just for the mere purpose of taking pictures and capturing the moment immediately. But wow, I would. So you had no idea who she was or who he was until later on, even though your father had explained who they were.
Nikki Giovanni, my father had bought me this children's book for Christmas.
Yes.
So right away, and I was like, for as young as I was a pretty serious actor. I was a pretty serious poet. So yes. I was into her from jump.
Yeah. Okay.
Julian Bond I knew of because my parents told me who he was.
Yes.
It wasn't until years later I saw a picture of him, Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson.
Yes.
Somewhere, and I was like, yo, he was at my house.
Yes.
But that's when, I was an adult when that really clicked.
Yes. Now, let me stop you for a second, Todd.
Sure.
And I hope not to go off track with this. With your parents exposing you to so much of your blackness, right?
Yes, sir.
Where do you think your blackness is today? Are you like a rebel? I mean, where are you with your blackness now? Because at that time, your father was exposing you to people that you could just touch and just be about. Do we have leaders like that? I guess that's a two-part question. So where are you now in your blackness? And do you think we have leaders like that today? A two-part question.
Well, to answer that question, a lot of the things that they instilled in me, I went away from and took years for me to get back. But that's another story. But
got you.
The blackness and my black awareness, they instilled from jump. I mean, we were doing Kwanzaa with my mother was doing Kwanzaa with us when I was 11, 12 years old.
Wow.
My mother was a Black History ninja. She was like, we'd be in the store. Who made the shoelasting machine? I'd be like, Jan Melt, and scared to get it wrong because you get that little tap. But, and my father was a Black History professor.
Yes.
And a bit of a rebel himself. So I guess especially with my poetry and my writings, I guess it would be a rebellious, Black awareness, but at the same time, a sensible one.
Gotcha.
Like I'm not trying to blow up no buildings. But I know where I stand and I know my history.
Yes. Did you? So, if you could just go back for me, you're 9, you're 10 years old. You meet these people of that magnitude. Did you have a sense of what your future life, your career would look like? Did you know at that time what it was going to unfold into being?
Nope, but everybody else did.
Okay, and
by the time I was 12, I had been in a movie.
Yes.
I had been in plays. I had directed plays. I had published poetry, and but it really wasn't something. It was just something that I did. Nothing that I per se took serious.
Yes.
What I wanted to be, I really wasn't.
Yes.
I wanted to be the next Walter Payton. And you being my teammate, you know that I was not.
But listen though, that's we gonna get up to that level.
But that's where, and my father was cool with that. He never forced any of it on me.
Yes.
I had played soccer most of my life. When I got to Notre Dame, started playing football.
Yes.
He came to all my games. He came to one game. I think I got in for 30 seconds, and like all 11 people dived on top of me, and he was like, "So this is what you want to do?" And I said, "Yeah, I love it. I love football." And he went along with me, but he never said, you got to do this or you got to do that. Now, when I got really twisted up and got into some whole, real destructive stuff,
yes,
he kept reminding me of what I could do.
Yes.
And
because later on, I think I reconnected with you. You were doing some coaching in Willingboro, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's some space in between there where I was
That's
on a whole nother.
We're gonna circle back around to that, but
okay.
we got time. But one of the things that I love about this platform, man, and I'm trying to encourage many more people to listen. It's that sometimes with social media, right? It's that 15-second, 1-second video or clip, but you don't know the real story. You don't know the trials and tribulations of an entrepreneur. And so this is why I say we are the unabridged platform to allow you to say your real story. And I can guarantee you that when this episode drops, there's going to be some folks that grew up with you that never knew this because they just didn't, right?
Yep. Well, this is appreciated, bro. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. And this is what
it's needed.
This is what we do. So in your mind, your father is not stopping you from being who you want to explore, but you knew that you wanted to be an NFL football player. You wanted to be the next Chuck Muncie.
Yeah, Chuck Muncie. There you go.
Chuck Muncie.
You got a good memory.
We're going to give a shout out to Big Zeke because I think Zeke called you that. Chuck Muncie. That's all right.
Yeah.
But
I think Zeke, man, I was talking to Zeke not long ago, and it was Zeke, Eric Smith, and we were trying to figure out who nicknamed me Fearless Fly, and it ended up everybody said you.
Oh, I don't know, but I'll take some credit because that was. But listen,
was you or Keith Mays.
Yeah, but you could run that ball with no fear, beloved. That's all right. That's all right.
No fear backwards.
Yeah. But you had mentioned before we get into the Notre Dame piece that you were in a movie. Which movie were you in, Todd?
Myself, Stephen Brown.
Yes.
June McKisson, her name is Monique Abreu now.
Yes.
And Darren Brown, Stephen's brother, we were all part of, my dad had a junior theater group called the Junior Players. And a lot of us acted in things, and June's father was working at Channel 52, and we were in a play about H.G. Gatson. I believe that he was one of the first black millionaires.
Yes.
And I played the part of a bully that used to pick on him.
Yes.
And it was shown in the school system that I was going in. So it was cool because, people in your class see you in a movie, but then it was also tricky because people in your class see you in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, I was going that route. I won a poetry contest in Ebony magazine, and, it looked like, that's the direction I was going.
Yeah. And so when did you win the poetry contest in Ebony magazine?
That I can give you a direct answer because I'm looking at the certificate right now. When was this? First place, 73. Wow.
Wow, Todd. So, and so when we got together at Notre Dame High School, no one knew this about you.
Nope. And I kind of kept it that way.
Why did you keep that a secret, man? That's real skill, man. Real talent.
I didn't realize it then.
Got you.
And I wanted to do other things. Now, my mother was a little bit different, bless her soul.
Yes.
But my mother was like, you're going to write, you're going to do this. And she wasn't trying to hear about no football. And she wasn't hearing about, she was just adamant on it. There wasn't no freedom with my mom on it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I kind of rebelled against that.
Yes.
And I've never acted in any plays at Notre Dame.
Yes.
Quick side point, but it does relate. One of the most active members in my rock in my theater company now is Kyle Moore, who never knew that I knew anything about acting or anything about theater until we were grown. And he was like, when did this happen? I was like, I've always been.
Wow.
But I was like, kind of keeping it to myself, which is no good for a performer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, were you scared, or you were nervous about how outsiders were going to respond to you? What was going on?
Well, it wasn't necessarily fear. Some of it also had to do with being that rebel. I wanted to do Cooley High. I didn't want to do Oliver.
Yeah.
And that's what that had a lot to do with it.
Yes.
And it's nothing, no knock against Notre Dame. It was a different time then.
Yes.
But I just didn't see anything that I related to performance-wise, so I didn't get involved. But then, people now in hindsight say, but you might have been the person to change some of that.
Yes.
But hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, but the good news is we're having this conversation now, and you can always circle back around, and you can always encourage folks, maybe not at Notre Dame, but at another high school, to be more inclusive as they begin to do more poetry and more theatrical plays. Yes,
and with the experience that I have now,
yes,
I also realize how brilliant some of those plays that I didn't think that I could relate to. Like, I just did a adaptation, my version, adaptation of, I guess you could say Scrooge, urban one.
Yes.
And it, won a prize at McCarter Theater, and a whole bunch of different things happened in my life because of that.
Yes.
But I was able to embrace something that I thought I couldn't relate to.
Yes. So no, wait. You said McCarter Theater. That's the theater up in Princeton, correct?
Yeah, man.
And they're celebrating you up there as well?
Well, this happened last year. A friend of mine that helps, kind of like a big sister to my community theater group,
Yes.
had told me about a contest that would happen.
Yes.
And where you could, it was called a bake-off by this Pulitzer Prize
Yes.
winning playwright Paula Vogel. And it was a workshop, and you go and you learn about Scrooge, about the entire play, and the entire book is really long.
Yes.
And they study it, and then you write your own little short adaptation.
Yes.
And it's picked to be read at McCarter.
Wow.
Now, I have not had any formal training in that, and I was terrified. Not to make a long story short, I was also at that time going through radiation for cancer.
Yes.
And I made every excuse not to get in this course.
Yes.
But this friend stayed with me, and I got in it. And I started really learning from it. And I wrote my little crazy adaptation, and
Yes.
it was one of the ones that was picked. And it was read at McCarter last winter, which was probably one of the biggest accomplishments for me, theatrical, in my life.
Yes, beautiful, Todd. Congratulations.
And we
Wow.
just did the play like last month in Trenton. We did it, and we did it in Willingboro.
Wow.
It's a short one act, but the reason why I brought it up was that I had to get out of my sometimes a rebellious part is good, and in other parts, it's like when I realized the brilliance of that Charles Dickens piece, I was able to do other things with it, and
Yes.
it helped me.
Wow, man. I am in so awe of you right now because I'm learning stuff from you for the first time. This is wonderful, man. Wow.
Yeah,
So-
it was really cool, man. I couldn't. I was probably one of the biggest things for me in my life, because as acclaimed a playwright as my father was,
Yes.
he hasn't had anything done in McCarter, and I always wanted to see that happen.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, Dad, we gonna go in there together, and it
But
felt good.
But couldn't you take one of his plays now and go back to McCarter Theater?
That's part two. That's,
Oh, I love it, man. I
um,
love it. I love it.
That's
Yes.
on that dream list.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna call it bucket list.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even have thought. The first day I walked in that room for the playwright workshop,
Yes.
there was students in there from Harvard, from Princeton, student playwrights.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there, like, I don't belong here.
Oh, wow.
But something said, yes, you do.
Yes.
And, I did.
Okay.
And it's lit a spark in me to get more of the education that I also need.
Yes.
But it's not going to be the thing that keeps me from doing something.
Yes. You said something interesting, that negative voice saying to you, you don't belong here. And just think about the creative spirit of the Black community. How often have we heard that spirit? And sometimes it shows up in reality. You don't belong here, and someone physically holding you back. You don't belong here. So what did you say to yourself to overcome that negative voice, Todd, at that time?
Well, I think, a lot of, I'm sure we'll get to that point, but a lot of my story was addiction and the streets and stuff.
Yes.
And that stigma of feeling less than or, lower than, I kind of earned it.
Got you.
And I had to learn how to get past it.
Yes, got you.
I had done a lot of things and done things that I needed to hold my head down about.
Yes.
But my recovery process was about lifting it up again.
Yes.
So I said, why not take a shot?
Yes.
And that's what I did. And my Scrooge adaptation is about addiction as well.
Yes.
So there's times when, it was crazy, Kevin. It could have been a Dave Chappelle skit. It's like 50 playwrights, all these young people, and they're asking the class for It's so crazy, Kev. They're asking the class for what are going to be props in their play. Somebody said, mistletoe. Somebody else, Rudolph, Santa. And I'm like, a wine bottle. But God bless that theater company and that playwright, because they, there was a silence for a minute, I'd be like, a wine bottle, a reefer bag, and she would look at me for a minute like, are you sure you're writing on the right adaptation? But they never looked down on me. They let me go through my process to get it where it needed to be for the production. And I'm so thankful for that, because
I love it.
If any of them would have looked at me funny or said this, that would have been the thing for I was coming in there already kind of defeated. That might have been the thing that pushed me out, but they took me in with open arms, and I appreciate that.
And this was about, 2-3 years ago?
This was last year.
Last year. And I'm going
last year, yeah.
You know what I'm going to say to that, right? It seems like timing is everything, and I may be wrong for saying this. Prior to the pandemic, prior to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, they would have said to you, are you at the right workshop? Right? Yeah,
you're right, maybe,
But because of timing, right, and the theatrical God saying, we're now going to be more inclusive of everything, right? It's like I've never seen our blackness be so encouraged now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, since we're coming out of the pandemic and the George Floyd and the Breonna Taylor, it's like everybody is trying to be apologetic and give us opportunities where we knew that this is the space we should have been in without your permission anyway.
Yeah.
But we had to go through this process. So I thank you for just having the timing to do what you said at that time, because now it's acceptable. Everybody wants to hear the real deal, the rawness. They want to hear about the trauma. They want to hear about the recovery. They want to hear about your motivation as how you went to the next level. Because one thing for sure that you're not going to get out of life is alive. And so we want to hear your story because someone else is going to benefit from your story. Maybe not someone you know or someone who sees you, but someone who hears and reads about your story is going to be blessed by your process, your motivation to stick to it. I'm sorry. I just wanted to share that. Thank you, brother.
No, that's wise words.
Yeah. Thank you. So now my next question is, so why'd you go to Notre Dame, man? Why didn't you go to a theatrical school?
Well,
it was the football.
Part of that came. My school thing made no sense.
Got you.
Yeah, I started out at Trinity Cathedral Day School.
Yes.
And then I went to Joyce Kelmer.
Yes.
And then I went to Junior 4.
Yes.
And then I went to Notre Dame. And none of my schools. And then I went to Morgan State at HBCU for college. Yes. None of them made sense to me, but it was like a civil war between my parents.
Got you.
My father was he was the one who wanted me to go to Joyce Kelmer. He felt that I was sheltered from my people. Okay. My mother thought that I would get in too much trouble.
Got you.
And which was partly true. But the bouncing around and the mixture and exposure that I did get was a blessing later on. I found out.
Got you. So you do your time at Notre Dame. What was that experience for you? Was this like culture shock? What was that like for you?
It was culture shock in the beginning, just a little bit.
Yes.
The cool thing was about it that I had so many friends that had been to parochial school, and it was almost like I went, because all my friends went to Our Lady, they went to St. Joe's, Blessed Sacrament. So when I got to Notre Dame, it was something like I didn't understand Mass at first, and it was some things I had to learn. Yes. But I was welcomed, right away. Yes. I didn't. There was no like lonely process or something like that. I fit right in.
Yeah, and
too much.
and now Notre Dame, I think, man, you can count the number of African Americans or blacks graduating every year in one hand.
I've heard.
So we've got to somehow encourage you to get back up there and maybe do some adaptations. Maybe they can start to do an alumni appreciation of one of your plays or some poetry. Bro.
That would be great. That would be great.
That would be fantastic, right? So
and I owe Notre Dame there because I had a quite successful run as a youth sports coach and as a high school coach.
Yes.
And that was solely because of what started out with Chappie Moore.
Yeah.
Because he pretty much told me, son, you're not going to play. You ain't going to get a whole bunch of touchdowns.
Yeah.
He said, but I believe in you. You're going to be a hell of a coach one day.
Wow.
And I'll never forget it. I don't know if you remember that when I had quit the team our senior year, right before the States.
Wow.
Because Leon was coming up. I'm like, ain't no way I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And Chappie sent Mike Derry to my house and told Mike to tell me to come see him in the homeroom that next day.
Yes.
And I did. And he had my stuff on his desk. I'll never forget this. And he said, I want you back out there. I'm like, why? I'm not going to play. I'm not. And he said, I see something in you as a coach.
Yes.
And I came back, and later on, that coach kind of came to its fruition.
Yes.
But if we had more, and I know there's plenty of them, but just a few more educators and coaches that plant that kind of seed,
yes,
it would be beneficial to some of the things going on today, too, I think.
Well, one of the things I had interviewed someone, Dr. Sharice West. I had interviewed her, and I had talked about, one of the things that Chappie had said to me. He said, the reason why I was so successful was because I was teachable and coachable. And it took me years to understand that, right?
I agree with that, too. And fast as I don't know what. And fast and big as a locomotive. That had a little bit to do with it.
Maybe. But I had talked about, why some of my contemporaries who had the same physical build, if not bigger and better and stronger and faster, it was they weren't teachable, they weren't coachable.
Yeah,
and
that's half the battle.
And so that became, and that can continue to be another podcast. But I'm glad he was able to share some words of encouragement for you at that time. So you go on to Morgan. Are you thinking about doing anything in their theatrical department?
Oh, Kev.
Yes, sir.
Bring some tears. I messed that up so bad.
What happened?
I mean, I just flat out messed it up.
Okay.
The day I got to Morgan State, I never forget this. This girl comes up to me, beautiful.
Yes.
Looks like something straight out of a Pam Grier thing, but not like shooting people and stuff. She just had that natural beauty, big afro.
Yes.
And she says to me, she said, "You're Todd Evans, right?" And I'm like,
what?
She was like a senior.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, what?
Uh-huh.
And all the guys on the yard too are talking to me, so I'm like, I'm cool as cat on the yard.
Yeah.
And she said, "We know who you are because we follow your father's work, and you can do some great things here with our Ira Aldridge Theater Company. We need you.
Yes.
We need information about your dad's work. We have a meeting today, and I believe in you and what you can help with this theater company."
Yes.
But it was also at the same time where my seeds of addiction were stirring up.
Okay.
And I went to the liquor store, got drunk, missed the meeting, and I saw her the next day on campus.
Yes.
And the disappointment in her eyes, it broke my heart. I there was nothing I could say to her. She obviously knew what I had done and where I was.
Yes.
And, that's pretty much what I did at my time there. To this day, I can't remember her name because I've always wanted to apologize to her.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to get back with that theater company. Later on, the Ira Aldridge one became defunct.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on up there now, but my immaturity and my early seeds of alcoholism and addiction blew that.
Now, let me ask a personal question. When did the seeds of addiction start?
Before then.
Okay.
Maybe I drank socially, after games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize, I had no idea what it was. Why am I drinking longer than everybody else?
Got you.
They going home, I'm going to get more.
Got you.
And even in college, I'm just thinking I'm living the life of the party.
Yeah.
Now I know what it was.
Got you.
That I couldn't even hold on long enough to make it to that meeting to do it, and it was years later that, it was brought to my attention, that I was an alcoholic, that I was an addict.
Yes.
But at that time, it was just, I didn't know what it was, but I felt it.
No.
When I saw her that next day on campus, that couldn't look her in the eyes, I knew that came from something that was unnatural.
Yeah. Now, Todd, listen, first of all, I love you.
Yes, sir. Love you back.
I am asking this question because I have never had the gall to ask anybody this question, what I'm about to ask you, but because I think we've got a long-term history, I can ask that question. With the seeds of addiction growing, were you trying to cover something up, or what was happening? I
think with me, and this is solely for me, everybody else has their own entrances into it.
Yes.
Mine was, I was playing with fire.
Got you.
And I just didn't realize how hot that fire could get. I always wanted to fit in, per se. I wanted to be that cool cat, and I really wasn't.
Was this?
I became it later on, but I overdid it.
Was this like that rebellious side that was now coming out?
Yeah, the stupid part.
Got you.
I remember I used to go to house parties, and I would put a cigarette in I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
I did not smoke, but I would put a cigarette in my mouth because it looked cool, I thought.
Yes.
And I remember I had a good friend. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at one time, and I think that she started noticing, me acting like I was Nino Bond.
Yeah.
And she pulled me aside one time, and she said, "What?" And it was the most simplest question, but perplexed me to no end. She said, "Why do you have a cigarette and you don't smoke?" And I had no sane answer for her. But that's how warped my thinking was. Yes. And I played at it. Until I became it.
Wow.
Where I had to smoke that cigarette. Well, I became a chain smoker.
Yes. And I
became an addict. I became a drunk. But I was, in the beginning, I was just playing with, that. And now, I don't get on no soapbox because, we fight for every day.
Absolutely.
But I do try to tell young people, man, be careful what you admire. Like I sat there and I watched Superfly and I watched all these movies, but I never got the message until it was too late.
Yes.
Or it felt like it was too late.
Yes. Well, I mean, listen, I thank you for sharing, and I know that your recovery and your sobriety is a challenge every day. So we're just gonna ask continued blessings on your supportive strength, man.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah. And how would I know, because we were going in different patterns, but after high school I lost touch with you, and I think it was maybe
that had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
Well, you was in the weight room, I was at the liquor store. That had a lot to do with it, Kevin.
Okay. Oh man, I remember my I think my junior year, right? We had a bottle of Cutty Sark, right?
Uh-huh.
My father, and we got drunk as cooter raccoons, boy.
Mm-hmm.
But that was never my addiction. But But just God bless you and your sobriety, brother. Thank you. Whew.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So when did you turn around, and when did you say, I've got so much I need to bring forth, let me do the coaching? So because I think when I first met you, when we reconnected, you were beginning your career in Willingboro coaching high school football.
I did that, and I did that pretty much on the blessings of a legendary coach, Tyrone Belford, who was Willingboro High's head coach at that time.
Yes.
And I was very active in the Little League, and I was having kind of success.
Gotcha.
And I came to him. I said, man, I was working in the kitchen at Willingboro High School.
Yes.
And I came to him. I said, man, I want to coach high school. You know, what can I do?
Yes.
And he said, well, you got to go back to school. You know, how many credits do you have from college? And I had like 2.5. But, you know, I had more than that. But he said, well, son, first you have to get 60 credits.
Yes.
And that means you got to go back to school, and you got to do that and do this. And he tells me everything. He said, if you do it, I will give you a job.
Yes. And
I was terrified. I'm like, I can't go back to school, you know, this, that. But I did. I got the 60 credits, and he hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And I coached there for a couple years.
Yes.
Then he left, and I went with him to Palmyra to help start his program there.
Now, which positions were you coaching?
I was, if you can believe this, I was offensive line coach. And offensive line and D-line. But, you know, okay, I learned from him.
Yeah, gotcha.
And, you know, Mr. Kimball in Trenton, he's another man that, you know, got me coaching.
Yes.
And most of those times I was pretty level. I was pretty stable.
Yes.
My father died Belford's last year of coaching.
Yes.
And my kids started becoming active, and two of my sons were pretty good athletes, scholarship athletes, and so on.
Yes.
So I couldn't go to their games and my games.
Yes.
So I kind of left the high school scene thing alone. Yes. And was following them in their career. And when my father got sick with cancer, it kind of like, this is no excuse, but it accelerated things to where I became a full-blown addict, alcoholic, and was like out of control.
Wow.
And, you know, about to lose my family.
Yes.
And my father was with me the whole time, you know, trying to get me right. But at the same time, as it got later, he knew that he was dying.
Yes.
And it got, you know, it took his passing. And I'm sorry that that's what it was.
Yes.
But that's what kind of woke me and got me back into, you know, where I am now. And, you know, I can pretty safely say where I should have been for quite some time. You know, my father always told me, you can't worry about yesterday and all this, but
yes, I
was the one that was supposed to carry that theatrical torch, and I just dropped it. But he always believed that I would pick it up.
Yes.
How, to this day, I don't know.
Yes. Wow.
But he always had that faith and that belief in me.
Wow. Because shortly after that, right, you, I think we bumped paths again. I think, and by that time you had written your first book.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just coming. My first book was actually something that I said I was going to do because of him.
Yes.
And so I ventured off and did it. There's plays of his now that I can direct and do them the way they're supposed to be done.
Yes.
Only because he told me how to do them.
Yes.
But Kev, it would be at the weirdest, like, right quick, I'm going to just tell you how much faith he had in me. I had been arrested, and I was in Ewing Township.
Yes.
In a county jail. That's how, you know, my addiction took me all kinds of crazy places.
Wow.
And fussing. My father, you know, I was immature, too. My father is Donald T. at Professor Evans. He's going to get me out of this and all this. So one of the officers knew my dad. and
Yes.
called my dad. My father comes up there, and he's got a script in his hand.
Yes.
And he says, sit down, man. I'm in a jet, cell. He's outside of it. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to do but sit down. But he's like, sit down, listen to this. And he's reading the scenes to me from a play. And, you got to understand, the reason why he's doing this is because of that. And I'm like, I'm listening, but, I'm half sober, I'm like, Dad, why are you telling me? He said, because when you get yourself together and you start directing my plays, you need to know what they're about.
Yes.
And I'm like, Dad, does it look like I'm in jail? I'm a junkie, And he said, you're not always going to be this way.
Yes. And
just listen. So I listened. And then I asked him, I said, did you bail me out? And he said, hell no, you get yourself out. And he left. But 20 years later, I'm doing that play. The scene comes up, and I'm like, no, you're supposed to be over there. And the character's asking me why. And I'm saying, because I couldn't remember why. Yes. And I was like, because my dad told me.
Yes.
But that kind of faith is what carried me into the courage to write that book and to start doing the other things that I started doing. I was like 40 years old when I got back.
Yeah.
Terrified.
Yeah. But as long as you have breath, you have life. You have dreams and desires to make those things happen. Man, I am so proud of you, man. Thank you. And
well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
It's like, folks, once you get a certain age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately or unfortunately, if you don't have any stories, if you don't have any trials and tribulations, then you're not living. And we all have to go through something to appreciate what we have. And
that's the truth.
And it's the writing, it's the storytelling, it's the podcasting that allows us to kind of share this, not necessarily with the younger generation, but people who are where we are, who might need to be inspired at another level to go on, don't give up, because you're just about there. And so I never knew this about you, Todd, and I know that our fathers are very important in our lives, and fathers are very important, very, very important in the Black community. So to have your father say, when you get yourself together to direct my plays this way, I can imagine the effect that's had on you, because that's probably a motivational effect is to keep going, right? Now,
yeah, and you parents, especially parents who got a kid on the bubble or in trouble, you got to speak that life into them.
Yeah.
Even when you don't see it.
Yeah.
It was like uncanny stuff my dad would tell me.
Yes.
I ain't gonna be long-winded, but me and my brother were at odds, and a lot of it was because of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I had stopped performing. I wasn't doing anything. I can't remember the last time I wrote a poem or performed anywhere. And we're in this heated argument somewhere. And my father was still alive then. And my father gets up, stop. And he's like, you two are going to do great things together. You're going to record and you're going to make music. And then I'm looking at my dad like he's out of his mind.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't written my Mary Had a Little Lamb, let alone anything else.
Yeah.
And my brother's looking at him like he's, out of his mind. And then 25 years later, we're performing, on TV together and making albums together.
Yes, I love it. Now, have you been back to the cause of New Jersey recently?
Yes, and that, man, do I got something to tell you about that.
Yes.
There's a festival coming up. It's 50 years of African American study. And one of the key people in it is a lady named Kim Pearson, and Ventress, who's a well-known community activist and spoken word artist from the city of Trenton. And part of what they're doing is a tribute to my dad.
Awesome, man.
The theater there is named after him, called the Don Evans Black Box Theater.
Yes.
And there's going to be a production coming up in March. It's not going to be at the college, but it's a tribute to him at the Trenton Country Club. And the community theater group that I started in his name is going to be performing scenes from his plays. And my brother's going to be playing there that weekend. and I'm really excited about that.
Do you know the date though, Todd?
Yeah, it's March 3rd. I'm not sure the time right offhand. I'm so sorry about it.
No,
but I
okay.
know it's a weekend. It's March 3rd at the Country Club.
Yep.
And I believe March 4th is at the college. My brother's bringing his big band, and it's going to be, you know, a pretty monumental tribute to African American Studies Department and my father. I wasn't even aware that he was one of the first Black chairmen of African American Studies there.
Wow.
Last month, I went and spoke to a class about, you know, they just want to know the history of my father and about his plays and stuff. It was supposed to be an hour long, and I was there for like 2 hours. The kids were just, you know, bombarding me with questions, and you know, it was a really amazing thing.
I love it, man. I love it. Now, so how many books have you written so far, Todd?
I've written 4 nonfiction, and I have 5 books of poetry. My latest one out is called A Rose for Ruby. It is dedicated to an aunt of mine who passed away, and it can be gotten on lulu.com bookstore.
Yes.
And it's short stories and poems, but it's I'm pretty proud of this book. I think it's the best one that I've written out of all of them.
Yes. Now, if I were to put you on the spot, you could help me out, right, Todd?
Sure.
You could do a poem for me now?
Of course.
I'm ready, brother. Take it away.
I guess the poem I will do is called Just Like Jonah, and it's about pretty much what we've been talking about.
Yes.
I can remember my mother telling me the story of Jonah and the whale, but I was young and dumb, and I laughed because I thought that it was a fairy tale. My stage name is the Son of Black, but my parents named me Todd, and for 40-something years, I just couldn't figure out why my arms were too short to box with God. But I kept on swinging anyway, not worrying about what God had to say, because just like Frank Sinatra, I was going to do that my way. But I kept running into brick rock hard behind walls, and I'd bounce back, and I'd feel like I was 2 inches tall. I was losing from the things that I was choosing. I was losing jobs, money, brain cells, and friends, and then I'd pray to God and ask him, Lord, when is this going to end? Sometimes I'd sit back and cry. Sometimes I'd sit back and try to die, and I'd ask the Lord why, and he said, son, maybe because your ass kept on getting high. But he would spare my life instead, but I'd be walking around in circles like the Walking Dead when all along I could hear God's voice calling in my head, saying, listen, son, I'm calling you. Listen, son, I have a purpose for you. Listen, son, I have something that your behind is going to do. Now, don't frown, don't make that face. That's how my God talks to me up in this space. He said, yes, I let you go to those institutions, and yes, I let you go to those jails because you were living your life in a way where you're bound to fail. Kept going out and coming back in, living this way and thinking you're going to win. He said, your life is yours, but your purpose is mine. If you follow my will, son, you'll do just fine. But that's tricky because some don't believe, and maybe it is harder for them to receive, and it could be harder for them to achieve. But me, I always believed in God. I just didn't believe in Todd. So I walked around for years faking the funk, pretending to be free when all along I was entrapped inside the jaws of a giant whale that I had set around me. So I asked the Lord one more time if he'd spare my black behind, and that whale opened up and he spit me out. And as I swim back to shore, trying not to detour no more, I can see all the obstacles that God has in store. And I can see all the blessings, and I know that there's more. I keep on stroking because my God is not joking. With me, his patience is wearing thin, and to that well, I don't want to go back in. I don't want to rebel. I don't want to fail and end up like Jonah in that well. And that's just like Jonah.
Yes. Brother Todd.
Yes, sir.
This has been fantastic.
Yes, sir, it has, man. It really has.
Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you think the listening audience should know, would want to know?
Well, we came a long way from foam grips.
Absolutely.
I remember you, Paul Pantella, and who else was it? Eric Canty.
Eric Canty, yeah.
Y'all used to ride by and come pick me up.
Yeah.
And y'all had them foam grips on your bike. And I was like, man, I got to get me some foam grips. And I was thinking about that today when I did look at your text.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I couldn't sleep thinking about them foam grips.
Wow, man.
Then I got them on my bike, and I was like, in.
Yeah, you was in. Yeah, those are like the Cadillacs.
We go back, man.
Yes, we do.
Go back.
Yes, we do. Like
we used to ride all over Trenton. Where was we going, Kevin?
Man, we was going nowhere. We were all over Mercer County, bruh.
Somebody would say there's a pretty girl that live over here. We would get on our bikes and ride to their house. Just as bold as can be.
I'm trying to tell you. It didn't make no difference where you lived. If we could get to it, we were going to come by there on the bikes.
I was thinking, I see us in Hamilton. I see us in Princeton.
We was Hamilton, Princeton. Of course, Ewing was a mainstay. And then
wherever we could get to.
Always in Lawrence. No big deal. That's all right, man. Those are the days.
If there's anything I could add, man, those friendships become kinships.
Yes, sir. But guess what, though, Todd? You are going to turn things around. You are going to, how they say, come back into your own authority, brother. So everything that your mother had said to you, everything that your father had put into your space, it's coming to you now. Just be ready.
Yes, sir.
As the Baptist pastor would say, get ready, get ready, get ready.
Yes, sir.
Because I mean, brother, it is coming. You know, I follow you as much as I can on Facebook, and I see the good work, the great work that you're doing in and out of the community. Just get ready, brother. Buckle up your chin.
I appreciate you.
Buckle up your chin strap, boy, like Chuck Muncie used. You know.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I'm trying.
Yes, sir.
There was one game. I can't remember the game. Chuck Muncie had this phenomenal. It was a game on like Monday Night Football. He had this phenomenal game that night. And everybody came to school the next day, and because Chuck Muncie had those glasses just like you would have those glasses.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying that was Chuck Muncie because he had I can't remember the game, but it was a Monday Night Football game. We came to school on Tuesday, and everybody started calling you Chuck Muncie because
Chuck Muncie.
He had a fantastic game on Monday Night Football, brother. But listen, this platform is always open to you. We want to celebrate your success, beloved. And if there's anything that the platform can help you do, let's do it. But one more time, tell us the name of your latest book, and tell us this weekend, March the 3rd and 4th, that we are going to be having, or you're going to be having for your father, in honor of your father.
Okay.
So
that's going to be done by the College of New Jersey.
Yes.
And that's going to be the weekend of March 3rd and 4th.
Yes.
And it is a tribute to African American Studies, 50 years. Also a tribute to my dad.
Yes.
You can find out more information about that on the Trenton Makes Music page.
Yes.
And it's also on the Trenton. It will also be on the College of New Jersey information page.
Yes.
Soon.
Yes.
If I may, I also still do an open mic that I've been doing at Classics Bookstore in Trenton.
Yes.
I've been doing that for getting close to 12 years now. It's one of the longest running open mics in the tri-state.
Wait.
That's every first Saturday.
Time out.
Yep.
You're still doing that now?
Yep. Well, I had surgery, so somebody took it for this month for me, but
yes.
I've been with Eric since he was at the old spot, and we're still going strong.
Awesome, man.
It's a free open mic.
Yes.
2 p.m. every first Saturday.
Yes.
I also do one with our sister, Jane Malloy.
Yes.
At the Trenton City Museum.
Yeah. No, I saw that one on Facebook. Who was that young lady that came on after your introduction?
She was in my last play, man. She can sing. She's 15 years old.
She was fantastic.
She's a Trentonian.
She was fantastic.
Her name is Jazz St. Cyr, and that child can sing.
Yes.
I mean, sing.
Yes, sir.
And that event is the last Friday of every month. It's about 3 years old. I didn't start that one, but I've been doing it for about 3 years. It's in need of support. So if you can come out, it's every last Friday of the month at the Ellerslie City Museum, 7 p.m.
Okay. So
and my book is called A Rose for Ruby.
Yes.
It can be got on Lulu.com bookstore.
Yes.
It is, and it's a lot of the poetry pertains to the Black Lives Matter movement and the Civil Rights movement.
Yes.
I wrote it for my aunt who was actually white, but taught me a lot about civil rights.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I guess that's another podcast.
Wow.
But she was Oren's godmother and my aunt. And how that happened, I don't know, because her husband was white, she was white. I asked my dad, I said, how is Aunt Ruby my aunt?
Uh-huh.
He said, because I said so, and family is those who act like.
And that's all you need to know, beloved.
Yep.
Todd, I am so proud of you, man. Thank you for gracing this space on my podcast, man. We love you. And we're going to
love you back, man. Keep up the good work, Kev. Keep up the good work.
We're going to continue to do our best to support you in your endeavors, man. All right?
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's talk.
Have a great night.
You as well. Let's talk in text in a minute. Thanks, man.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.